So our national science standard is going to be making observations to provide evidence that energy can be transferred from place to place by sound, light, heat, and electric currents. The state standard to go with that is identifying the source of energy that causes an increase in the temperature of an object, for example, the sun, stoves, flames, or light bulbs. Our national ELA standard is going to be students use spoken, written, and visual language to accomplish their own purposes, for example, for learning, enjoyment, persuasion, and the exchange of information. The state standard to go along with that is going to be describing the connection between two individuals, events, ideas, or pieces of information in a text.
I'm here today with Allison Elfrink, and she's going to be teaching a lesson with her third grade classroom over thermal energy. So why don't you tell me a little bit about this lesson that you're going to be teaching?
Yeah, sure. So we've been working on the concept of energy. In our last lesson, we defined energy and the students learned about what energy is. So now we're extending on that concept with another lesson. And the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to start out with an engage activity using this fun coffee cup and some hot water. And we're going to pour the hot water into the cup while the students are all gathered around. And I'm going to tell them to watch for changes in the cup and to think about what the source of those changes might be. And it'll take it just a second, but we want to really build that suspense so the students' minds are engaged and they start thinking about the concepts. There we start to see the change happening with the hot water. And as the changes are happening, we're going to have the students break down into small groups and talk about what they think might be the magic behind the change in the coffee mug. It's a very good way to engage those students' brains, get them excited about what they're learning. We haven't told them yet what's causing the changes, so they get to make their own hypothesis and really think about the concepts that we're going to start teaching in the lesson. After that, I'm going to turn it over to my co-teacher, Anna, and she's going to help the students with the exploration activities.
I'm not here with Anna, which is Allison's co-teacher, and she's going to be showing me what the kids are going to be doing to explore the concept of thermal energy in their lesson, and right after they engage. So why don't you tell me a little bit about that?
Yes, so I'm doing the second stage of the 5E lesson plan, which is exploration. During this time, the students will be split into two small groups. Allison will take one group and I will have the other group. And they'll be doing two different activities that will help them use their background knowledge and their real life experiences to use scientific inquiry to figure out what may be causing these changes. So the first activity that Allison will be in charge of will have the students each receiving 2 Hershey Kisses, and they'll place them in their hands, and they'll also be provided a worksheet. And on the worksheet they will check if they believe the open hand will melt the Hershey Kiss or if the closed hand will, and how much they believe it will. And they also get to develop a hypothesis. So again, this is helping them just use all that background knowledge to really start figuring out why it is causing these changes. And then afterwards, they also get to write down what happened and why they think it happened. So Allison will instruct them to place it in their hands, and then they will close one hand for 5 minutes. At the end of the 5 minutes, they'll be instructed to open their hands, and they'll get to see the changes. The second activity that I will be doing with the other small group will involve this popcorn popper. And the students won't necessarily be actually using the popcorn popper. This is more of an observation for them. But again, they'll have a worksheet and they will get to predict what they think will happen to the popcorn kernels when they are placed inside the popcorn popper. And they'll be able to develop that hypothesis and write down why they think happened and what did happen.
At this stage, have you told the students what is going on and like why the reaction is occurring because of the thermal energy, or are they still trying to figure it out?
At this point, we have not told them what is causing the thermal energy, and that we are hoping that through these activities, they're able to start developing their own ideas, again, using that background knowledge to really just develop those and sink those in so that when we go into the further on into the lesson, they're able to realize, yes, I was correct, or no, I needed to change this thinking and why.
Thank you. So now that you guys have just finished up with your hands-on labs for the students, what are you going to do with them now that they have all these questions about thermal energy, since their minds are going and they're ready to learn?
Yeah, absolutely. So now we decided that after this, the best thing to do would be to pull the whole class to the carpet and to explain some of the questions that they have right now. And so we're going to define what thermal energy is, talk to them about that definition and how there's 3 different kinds of thermal energy. You have conduction, convection, and radiation, and we're going to define those terms on the board for them as well. This will help them understand the concepts that we're wanting to teach them through the activities, and it's also really important since our state standard talks about them identifying the source of the energy. We want them to start thinking about where do these different kinds of energy come from and what are the sources of the heat that's causing the reactions.
Yeah, so then after that we're going to move on into our elaborate section of the lesson. So now we are in the elaborate section of our lesson, and we're going to be moving the students to the carpet for this.
It's very important to coincide literacy with other concept areas. How are you going to do this for your students? That way they're getting knowledge from not just one concept, but multiple.
So we chose to use a nonfiction book, and we're just going to use a section of the book titled Heat, and it's by Joseph Midthun. And we will read that section to the students, and then afterwards we'll be answering questions, and the students will be able to write these down. And this way they can connect the information and their thoughts that they learned during those beginning science activities to what they read in the text in the book. And those will be combined in their answers as they're writing, or if needed, some students can also orally give us their answers based on the differentiation needed.
Mm-hmm.
So the book Heat is about a little flame that goes through life, and he goes through outdoor scenes, and he will explain different things like thermal energy and heat energy and the sources of heat. In one of them, he explains how hot objects have more thermal energy than cold objects. He also explains things like fires and electricity are other sources of heat.
So after we finish with our students doing the elaborate with the book and really connecting our ideas that we've taught them to different real-life situations, we're going to pull them back together as a class, have them go to their desks, and they're going to be assessed using a Nearpod quiz so we can get an idea of where they're at in the lesson and really evaluate what their knowledge is and how much they've learned to see if we've gotten our concepts down.
It's really important to differentiate for all your students across
Absolutely.
the board. How are you guys going to do this for all those students?
So through the Nearpod, you are able to select different ways of questioning students. So we'll have one question that is a true and false. We'll have a fill in the blank. There'll be another question where students are asked to draw something. And then there's multiple choice and even a short answer question. And if it's needed, we can also read these questions to a student so that they're able to orally hear as well as visually see the question that is presented to them.
The first slide in our Nearpod states the chocolate kiss activity was an example of an energy transfer. It is a true or false question. The next slide is a fill in the blanks. Students will get to choose where they think each word goes. The next one is a drawing activity. Students will be able to draw one activity that we have done that day that they consider a heat transformation. The next question is which one is not an example of heat energy, and by the time they take this, students should be able to know that it is a refrigerator. And our fifth slide is a short answer, and it just states in your own words, define heat energy.
So after we finish the Nearpod quiz and all the students have taken that, they should have a really good grasp on the concept of thermal energy. Hopefully they've learned and had a good time doing it, and we're ready to wrap up the lesson.
Yes, and we've already completed this lesson with our students, and we were just able to tell that they were highly engaged just through their answers and just through their willingness to listen with us, and just how they were just ready to move on to the next section, and they were just ready to learn.
Thank you, ladies, for coming out and showing us your thermal energy lesson for your third grade classroom. And I honestly would personally love to be part of this fun activity because it seemed like they were very engaged and involved. And I mean, if I was a third grader, I'd love to be part of something like that.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.